Welcome to the tilt space, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you guys heard, but this slate has been flipped on its head over and over and over again to the point we thought we were winning, and then we thought we were losing, then we thought we were winning again, but in reality, we're actually just losing. So I am here with my buddies Mike Leone and Joe Holka. You are watching the tilt space. Someone in the chat just said if you don't have Tyreek Hill, you're losing. Can anyone confirm this? I'm still working to confirm this theory.
Hashtag confirmed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys. This day started out so nice. How long were we in first in the 777 3 max checkdown?
We took it from basically the opening bell to about 5 minutes left to go in the first wave of games. And then James Robinson got there. I felt like we ran bad a little bit on some stuff at the end of that game. And then we're like, okay, I wish I could have our messages brought up. And we were basically like,
No.
I think we can stay top 5 as long as KC Tampa Bay doesn't go too crazy. And then by halftime, we were dead. And similar experience for me in the Thunderdome. I was like, oh, no one ahead of me has more PMR. I can make up a lot of ground with these receivers I have that no one has in the Rams 49ers game. And then by halftime, I'm just clawing for min cash, and now I'm clawing for nothing. Just I don't know why I'm still cheering.
Man, I was so excited because we do our action, we play our very specific contests, and then sometimes I'll just play teams so that I can watch our rosters as we go and separate contests. So I threw it in to the spy, and I'm sitting there and we're winning the spy the whole morning, basically, from literally what you just said, start to finish until basically that second Jefferson touchdown, right? And that's when we kind of dropped significantly further down. We're just victory lapping our 8% Derrick Henry. And Dalvin Cook goes down, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Right after that, I mean, he was only 36% owned in the 777, so that was not good for us.
Yeah, we had lots of just going down through our lineup here. So it's Nyheim Hines loses goal line touches to Jacoby Brissett twice. Robbie Anderson misses out on a deep bomb. Denzel Mims leads the league in air yards again. Adam Shaheen scores another touchdown instead of Gesicki, and Dalvin Cook gets snowflaked in the smash spot of the century. So yes, to say I'm tilting would be an understatement.
And I mean, if you had looked at the Chiefs stats at halftime, that could have reasonably been full game stats. And we would have been like, oh, maybe we survived that. But when that's only half the game, you don't survive it. Holy shit, too. I got off that stack. My strategy ended up being these less expensive kind of skinny stacks. I could do a lot of mini correlations. Unfortunately, the ones I did in KC Tampa Bay were Kelsey and something else instead of Tyreek and Gronk, which apparently turns out that old man Gronk at tight end over Kelsey, and then paying up for Tyreek at wide receiver was the move. So I have no Tyreek exposure. He was our highest projected receiver. I don't own any of them. I've got Levitan and Slack, running victory laps because he played him in cash, and it's not a great experience for me.
Pete, do you want to walk the people through our team? Someone in chat right now goes, we thought Derrick Henry broke the slate. Tyreek Hill said, hold my beer. Yeah, if hold my beer means I'm just going to throw up 220 or whatever he's at and 2 touchdowns, then yeah, that's a hell of a hold my beer.
Is this the highest scoring performance ever?
Someone posted a Pro Football Reference screenshot, and I think Jerry Rice was at the top there. I don't know if he's passed it yet, though. So,
yeah, I wonder in modern fantasy, not if we played fantasy back in the 80s.
Mahomes had the 300-yard bonus with 9 minutes left in the second quarter.
Isn't it more impressive back then for a wide receiver to get there?
Dude, Jerry stats are insane because I know sometimes you get the best wide receiver ever conversation and everyone's like, oh, it's Randy Moss. It's Randy Moss. And there's part of me that says, okay, in peak talent, you can make the case for Randy Moss, but look at Jerry Rice's stats in his era. I'm pulling them up. I'm going to pull them up. You guys take it. I'll come back.
This is how you know it's a bad week for us if we're pulling up Jerry Rice's historical
Also,
stats.
this is a really, like, I've been itching to get a Jerry Rice old school jersey, and I have a jersey obsession. So this might just, I might just tilt by one right now. Jerry Rice, just a really good stats guy. 22 touchdowns in his third year, 1,600 yards in his second year. His first year he barely played, doesn't even count. Went over 1,000 yards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 years in a row, he went over 1,000 yards. He scored 10 plus touchdowns in 9 of those 11 years. And then he went on to like have a second Hall of Fame career after that.
How did we go from you discrediting like wide receiver stats not in the modern era to saying I'm going to buy a Jerry Rice jersey and listing off stats to me?
Well, because I went from wanting to tilt, like I felt like you were taking away my Tyreek Hill tilt by being like, oh no, it's not the most fantasy points ever. So like I was upset about that, but then I was also upset about just general. I don't know. I'm just upset and I'm not sure why.
Did that end up being the chalkiest stack on the slate though? The Mahomes stack, like in the 7-7-7, like all three guys are like 25% on. Plus.
Yeah, like I'm looking at A Ravens in first right now. Mahomes 28%, Tyreek Hill 25%, Kelsey 34%. And as it's Mookie says in the chat, just imagine fading Jerry Rice on the Week 6 1993 slate. I mean, can you even fucking imagine fading him?
I heard he was being shadow covered the whole time too, so he was at low ownership.
Good Lord. So,
I mean, do we want to recap anything here? Or do we just want to tilt and people have no idea what's going on?
I just want to tilt. If people have specific questions in the chat, let us know, but I don't think you care. We don't care. We're just going to get drunk and get mad at whatever's going on in these games.
That's fair.
We're
not even gonna get to do our Robbie Anderson victory lap where he comes 6 yards short of the bonus. That was fun.
Dude, the team looked good for a while. It did, Joe. I mean, we correlated Robbie with Cook. He fit as our last piece. We got the double stack in there with a bring back. Henry correlated with Hines at super low ownership. The low owned D that does fairly well. It's a gorgeous lineup. And then Patrick Mahomes comes in.
I think for the holidays, I'm going to get my wife, I'm going to get her like one of those jewelry boxes from Tiffany's. And inside is actually, there's going to be no jewelry. It's just going to be a wadded up piece of paper that said, but all of my lineups were correlated, I think is what will be in there. That actually just reminded me, I need to get her something nice this year. DFS has been good to daddy. Time to get something nice.
Okay,
sorry,
that's creepy. That's really creepy.
That was really weird. We're all struggling.
A lot of snowflakes here in these other squads, though.
Brady throwing balls off his lineman's helmet that get picked off.
That's more like supposed to be the Kyler move. I feel like every time I saw a Kyler pass today, it was getting batted down at the line of scrimmage.
So do we want to play the refuse to take an L game? What do you guys think about this Mahomes stack, as Joe said, with all three guys at 25% owned? And they're not, the bring back, even in Antonio Brown, ended up like 20% owned.
Like, this isn't really even an optimal, is it? Because he has James Robinson on this team, Chenault, no one on the Cleveland side. He has Hines, no one on Tennessee.
This is one of those Thunderdome teams that they toss in everything.
I mean, yeah, I'm just like, I'm confused on how this, like, I think A-Raven's a decent player, but
Robinson Chenault doesn't seem that good. Hines did not have to be correlated, though. I mean, he was such a smash value.
So Hines gone, we throw that out.
I was definitely tilting that a lot of people just punt deed with the Jets and got there. And he's got, Parker against the Jets D, which, whatever, that's fine. I guess I'll say, even though the stack was high owned, he doesn't have Dalvin Cook. He doesn't have Brian Hill. So it was hard to completely avoid the chalk. So our decision was basically, let's play a chalk Viking everywhere. We either play Justin Jefferson or Dalvin Cook in every lineup, and that's the chalk we chose to 8. So I do think it's L worthy to just be like, we ate the wrong chalk. I mean, that's somewhat results oriented, but you didn't have to. You could have played the chalky Mahomes stack, I guess, basically is what I'm getting at. And if you faded Brian Hill and Dalvin Cook, and look at all the other receivers he didn't play, like Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley. So he faded a ton of chalk really in this lineup. In fact, the only chalk he pretty much played was the Mahomes double. I guess everyone else was like double digit, but no one else was high.
Like no bring back.
What about the no bring back?
Yeah.
Am I like too stuck on bringing players back?
I mean, maybe the Chiefs are the exception, right? Because they can front run these games so much like they did with the Jets. Like when they had that game against the Jets and we had those cheap bringbacks, even those like barely ended up in the optimals. The one thing I'll say about not wanting to take the L on not playing this Mahomes double stack is like, even though I feel like there's more paths to still winning if Dalvin Cook doesn't smash. Whereas if you go all in on the Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, and they don't go nuclear, like you're dead. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's more outs to a middling Dalvin game than there are a middling premium double stack game.
It's not that I'm like not willing to take the L on just being light on the Mahomes stack, but like I don't think these weeks where like a stack that's 25% owned across the board goes off, like this is probably not a path where we win these contests, right? Like, is that accurate?
I think what's frustrating, I think that's accurate, but I think what's frustrating is a lot of things did go well for the way that we play.
True.
Yeah. Derrick Henry smashing. All the early chalk receivers failing basically except for Justin Jefferson, and he didn't go like nuts. So it was in a way like a really good setup for the way we play. And it even seemed fine, again, going into the afternoon games if the Mahomes stack doesn't hit, but it's hard to hit. I mean, how many points, even Kelsey at tight end is fine. I do think as far as the bring back stuff, this was a week where there were a lot of good kind of pivot plays and one-off plays, and I was trying to get off bigger game stacks because I didn't want to fill up so many spots because I wanted to get some of these one-off plays in, and that's why I ended up getting on a lot of like Tannehill stuff because you could go Tannehill, AJ Brown, Hines, which basically your quarterback is whoever. Hines is the chalk running back, so you're really only taking up one extra spot. And then you can do a lot with other things. So in theory, you could have done that with Mahomes. Dink even asked me in his MME stuff, he usually double stacks Mahomes. He asked me if he could single stack, and I said yes, because you could single stack, hope that you get the alpha wide receiver game from what, I didn't say Hill specifically, but just in general, and try and hit the nuts elsewhere. So I think in large field MME, like weeks like this, the single stack is fine, even if it's really expensive. And that's probably what's going to win the super large field MME stuff this week.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna as OA says, it's more likely your bring back hits than your second stack hits. Don't overthink this, guys. I do think really the conversation comes down to probably the price points on that stuff, right? Like if you're trying to force a bring back that's really expensive, you're probably in trouble. But like I think the places where it makes a ton of sense is like, okay, you're playing Chubb. Shenault and Keelan Cole are already one of just the best in a vacuum point per dollar plays on the slate. Might as well correlate it with Chubb in that situation, and they're really cheap. So I think to me, that's maybe the note too of just like looking at the prices. And so in the context of the Brady one, I would have had in the Mahomes one, I would have had a hard time not bringing it back with Antonio Brown, because I think relative to the amount of targets he's getting at 5,700, he was underpriced. So I don't know. I feel like it is a little contextual, but I'm still on team bring back.
Yeah. And really, if we're trying to hit the nuts, the bring back does hit it, right? I mean, it's Gronk at tight end. It's just not the guy we would have brought it back with.
Right. And that's have you been thinking at all, either of you guys, about the kind of the double tight end stuff? Because I think this was another interesting week where I know in some optimals, even you sent me the ETR optimal, and Kyle Rudolph and Kelsey were in that. And this, I think it is a unique situation where Kelsey does have to be the one involved because you can treat him like a high-end flex wide receiver. were we maybe misguided not to consider more Kelsey flex options?
I don't know. I just can't imagine, I know that's a broader question, but specifically the Tampa Bay bring back, like I can't imagine playing Gronk in flex essentially. Like, I don't know. Maybe
Wait,
he
but
was
is it
fine.
no, but
7K.
isn't Kelsey
Well,
the flex for
but it's the
semantics?
same. I mean, it's the same thing though.
You're saying that I don't think
But
it's
then I'm saying at that point I would have just brought back Antonio Brown is what I'm saying.
okay.
Like eh, or Godwin or Evans. Like I probably in a flex spot, I probably would have brought back. Now, if we would have done the skinny, which I think was viable this week, we might have I could have seen talking ourselves onto Gronk and saying let's skinny Mahomes. In our stuff, I probably wouldn't have gotten there because Mahomes, you kind of want the double. But like in large field stuff, I don't know. I think that was pretty reasonable.
I think I get what Pete's saying though. Like, at what point, like, just putting Kelsey in and acting like he's just a flex option, he's a wide receiver at that point. And at that point, though, like, why are you just jamming in this tight end play? So think of it this way: why are we jamming in a tight end play that we know is going to be a lot thinner than some of these wide receivers at the same price point? I'd just rather play Kelsey at tight end and then do something different at the flex. So I get that it's totally different. I don't know why would we jam in two tight ends though? I don't know.
I think
That's
you
tough.
could do it. I think Rudolph was a good case where he was, cheaper than any receiver is, right? So there might have been some lineups that you could literally only play with a sub 3K player. And if that occurs, I think Kelsey and Flex is fine. The problem I was having with it was there was pretty much always a receiver or running back that I liked more than the tight end option when you get above the 3K, even into the 4 to 5K range.
Let's talk about some of the other chalk this week. I mean, Brian Hill was a piece of chalk that definitely didn't get there. I mean, Ito Smith got in the end zone. I actually didn't watch a ton of that game. Do either of you guys have thoughts on Brian Hill flopping?
Man, I remember seeing it, and it was like 40 to whatever 7. I was like, who even scored in this game? I feel like it still wasn't that relevant. Were you watching this one closely, Leone? I don't think I was either, really.
Not closely, but I was. Dude, the game just seemed like an absolute train wreck. I mean, both teams seemed like a disaster. I don't know how Atlanta ended up smashing them the way that they did. It was no one could do anything, and in a way, it feels like the Brian Hill chalk week failing is predictable. But we had him projecting very well, especially with Quadre Allison out. It was just one less body, and they just didn't have a third back. So, how much work was Ito going to take? And it seemed like a good play. The concern, I guess, that kind of came to fruition is he's not efficient. The passing game for Atlanta hasn't been throwing to backs a lot this year. So you can't like milk there on targets. And then it just comes down to what's the goal line role going to be. Of course, Ito ends up getting a rushing touchdown in that game. So I thought he was a fine play. If I knew he was coming in at the ownership he came in at, I thought he was a very good fade. I ended up playing him, I think, on one of my 8 teams this week. It was the only one that I didn't play, or one of the few I didn't play Hines on. So there were a lot of routes that it could go bad, even though you can see why he projected well. I had him projecting well because there's just no one else really to give the workload to, but it wasn't like the best of workloads.
I'm not sure. Go ahead, Pete.
Oh, go ahead.
I
was just going to say real quick
Big
update. Mike Evans. Yeah, Mike Evans TD.
Oh, man.
Dude, and we keep wanting to play Godwin and AJ Brown, and Mike Evans scores every week.
Well, they're all now playing a kind of a unique role in the offense, and Mike Evans has the I score touchdowns role.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe. What were you saying?
No, I was more just like, I'm not sure if I just got bailed out a little bit on the decision between these indie backs and the Brian Hill, just because I like Derrick Henry so much. It was pretty easy to just play more Naheem Hines for 600 more. So I maybe got bailed out a little bit there. Austin Eckler, he could have had 2 touchdowns in this game. Still, 11 receptions for Austin Eckler in this spot, 14 rush attempts. He had 16 targets, guys. So, I feel pretty good about our stand, at least, with Austin Eckler, because he's still like, even in some of these higher stakes contests, he wasn't that owned. So like even the 777, 10% owned, and what was he in the Thunderdome, Leone? Let me see if I can find one.
10%.
Yeah.
I was one of the 3 teams with him. I'm gonna say we had a bad week, but let's victory lap Austin Eckler. And the injury return model, as Peter told me in our Discord chat, is undefeated. Silly ownership. We both said, without talking to each other, that this was a $6,100 player that we were getting at low ownership, who really should be a 7. Yeah, he's a $7,500 player that we were getting at $6,100 without any ownership, and that only happens coming off injury. And we said to each other last night, let's just mute Austin Eckler news, because we know the inevitable workload tweet or something's coming. And sure enough, in the morning, Rappaport says something about how he won't get a bell cow role. And the thesis behind Eckler isn't even a bell cow role anyway. So I was really happy we stuck with our guns. We didn't just play it; we played it heavy. Like over 50% ownership for us on Austin Eckler. Yeah. So that was a good one. I am tilting a little bit the KC Tampa Bay game. It's so results oriented when a game goes off like this. You're like, oh, how did I not see this coming? But I had these teams as 2 of my top 5 in pass rate over expectation model, which kind of made me want to be like, that can really go off when these teams are so pass heavy. The other thing we did well too, we got off Buffalo Chargers, a game that theoretically had a ton of upside. I do think it had a lot of upside players, but we were all kind of like, well, there's going to be a lot of ownership here. For some reason, the total in this game seems a little low, particularly on the Chargers side. It's coming down even. And I think we made a sharp decision to say, let's not chase the upside when the ownership's there, when we have at least a little bit of a warning sign. I would have completely ignored that warning sign if ownership wasn't going to follow it, but it was following it.
Yeah, and again, it shows you in these tournaments, we talk a lot about how top heavy the prizes are, even when we're being very picky with our contest selection. And we mentioned how many things we got right. We were very in on Derrick Henry, very in on Austin Eckler, but it's like, okay, Justin Jefferson outscores Dalvin Cook as that chalk piece, and then we don't have Tyreek Hill, and it's just like, you're done. Just like a few things, because Leone just mentioned it. We faded the passing game in that Chargers-Bills game where all that ownership was. Like, that worked out. I mean, so many things we did worked out. So I'm going to just cry into my pillow tonight to trust the process. Trust it. Trust it.
Leone, were you surprised that Denzel Mims in the 777, like sub 5% ownership, like Fitzpatrick only 13%? Like, that was lower than I expected. We did get Gesicki to differentiate even more at 3%. So that stack ended up being much lower than I thought. And for a while, until the Jets basically didn't fight back at all, that was looking pretty good for us.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised, because the Jags cheap wide receivers, Gabriel Davis, Andy Isabella, I thought Mims was going to get lost in the mix. So not that surprised we got the ownership. That's Fitzpatrick and Tannehill were my favorites because it was so clean. Gesicki fit for us, but if he didn't, just Fitzpatrick skinny with Parker, bring it back with Mims. It just really fit. It's just, there's only so much to say, because at the end of the day, if you didn't play KC, you didn't win. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. So KK10 in the chat says, so when do you guys not look to fade the chalk, or did you guys play Cook this week? One thing I heard Mike and the guys at ETR say it, that, Dalvin Cook was underpriced this week relative to his projection. And I think all of us felt similarly with that. And then the other thing that you'll see that we do is we very rarely will play, multiple super chalky pieces in our lineup. We might have one, we might have 1.5 that's, moderately chalky, but then we're getting unique around it. Like, we might play Dalvin Cook, but we're going to have a Ryan Tannehill double stack at 5% combined ownership. So overall, we're never just like chalk agnostic in a vacuum, but if we put in one of those chalk pieces, we're going to be very mindful of how we're building around it. And I think if we went through all of our ownership exposures today, you would see that they're balanced out in those spots where we did have Dalvin Cook.
And one thing, I think we're doing a really good job with mini correlations, but someone mentioned that I was on Jarvis Landry, for example, and I ended up not playing Jarvis Landry This is going to turn into the DeAndre Swift bit for Pete, where I get thanked for Jarvis Landry, and I end up
Great call, Leone. Everyone give Leone a call on Jarvis Landry.
That's the type of one-off that I don't think you had to force it back, and I probably would have felt compelled to. And then it's like, oh, I'm eating 2 spots at receiver on this game. And, sometimes if a guy's cheap enough, especially like a volume guy like Landry, you don't need to correlate every single piece, I guess. I think we're doing a good job of correlating most of our pieces. We should continue to do that, but we don't have to correlate like every single piece all the time. And that like might have gotten me on a guy that I did like. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm not going to cash this Thunderdome team because of Tyreek.
Oh my God. Pete, one thing that I'm going to bring this lineup up while we're talking,
he didn't do more, but literally if he scores 40 points, I cash easily. If he scores 40 and not 60.
How many people cash this?
7. I'm in 10th. Yeah. But I need like 16 points the rest of the way from Cup and Debo, which is just not.
We actually also have a little bit of sweat for a min cash here because we're in 35th right now, cashing for 1250. 41st is the bubble. We have a sweat for a mid cash in the check.
That is so rough.
Well, also, so I just have to say what's also super tough. I had this team, a similar team to what we had in the spin move. It was Fitzpatrick, Henry, Hines, Parker, Mims, Eckler. That was my start. Super clean. I had Antonio Brown, Kelsey, Saints left. And it just seemed in such good shape. And, now instead of gaining on the standing, it's fallen dramatically with Kelsey Brown. And I was tilting kind of seeing the 20% ownership on Antonio Brown. I'm surprised by that.
Let's talk through this Tyreek Hill stuff because I'll tell you how my brain was processing it when I was looking at ownership this morning. And when I pulled in all the updated ownership from multiple spots, I was seeing very similar ownership on both Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And if there was a disparity between it, I mean, I would have gotten excited about like a Tyreek Hill leverage spot. But when I saw them at the same, my mind is like, tight end is so gross. I want to break ties against the wide receiver in this case so I can just get rid of my tight end position with Travis Kelce. So when I was filling out the rest of those mini correlations, I was gravitating toward Kelce with one of these sub 10% owned Bucs wide receivers. I mean, is there anything I can do to avoid this, to miss out on a Tyreek Hill explosion? Because I kind of don't want to beat myself up about it because it's the same way I treat Derrick Henry. I thought he was going to be less than 10%. Today, I thought he was a great play. When he's 25%, like Tyreek Hill was projected and what he came in at, I don't want to play him. The question is Tyreek Hill now in this stratosphere where he's the hottest wide receiver in the game? He's like producing on a Devontae Adams type level. Is he an anomaly to this rule?
I think what's really hard is the target share for Tyreek Hill has been so divergent. If you look at like the first half of the season versus the second half, he was like not even 20%. Kelsey was dominating the targets. Hill was like 16%. I mean, really low. And then he's been up like 30%. And if you're going to get a 30% target share with Mahomes and not only his efficiency, but they're super pass happy on top of it, then he is an anomaly. Now, I don't think that 30% is going to continue. I think he comes down to more like a 25% type guy, which is still phenomenal. Still makes him a great play. But I'm kind of with you, Peter. The only inkling I had to play in Hill was I thought that maybe Ridley, Keenan, and Diggs would all come in higher than him, which would drop him down. But that didn't even really occur. Like if I had known the ownerships ahead of time, I don't know. I wouldn't have gone on my way to not play Hill, but I also wouldn't have gone on my way to play him.
Man, I'm not going to tilt fading a stack that's 25+% owned across the board at those prices, like with all these other options we had on the slate. I actually I feel like I got over some of the shittiness that happened today quickly, just because I feel like our path today, obviously things started really well, but like if there's going to be a chalk stack like that just goes this crazy, like not even just like a little bit crazy, like literally we're staring at Tyreek Hill right now with 12 catches for 261 yards and 3 touchdowns on 13 targets. Like I don't give a fuck about that. I think that's like, if you're going to tilt that, I don't think that's very good process overall.
Maybe not. You're not tilting to 60, but like if you had scored 40, I mean,
no, I'm talking about the ownership. Like you think you're tilting the ownership of this KC stack against Tampa Bay versus some of the things that we got. I feel like we got really good leverage this week on the teams we did make.
Oh yeah, and what I'm wondering is this idea of like, okay, if their ownership was similar, which I think if I pull my stuff up, that's what I was seeing with both Hill and Kelsey. I was breaking ties in favor of Kelsey in every spot, and I guess that's what I'm pointing to. I'm not. I'm not tilting him going nuclear. I'm just more talking about like, is that bad to break ties in Kelsey's favor in that spot?
Mm-hmm. One thing that I thought
I don't think so. Well, the whole idea is that Kelsey can completely ruin his position and Tyreek Hill probably can't.
And then the opposite happened
right? I mean, that's it in theory.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be Travis Kelsey outscores Kyle Rudolph by 2 and Tyreek Hill doubles up the next closest wide receiver.
Literally, like almost like if you take Landry out of it, Fuller obviously and Amari on Thanksgiving, like if we just go down to Justin Jefferson, 26 points, basically like the next closest, like Landry and Jefferson, and Tyreek drops a 60 bomb. So it's like,
hang on, I need to do something. Family Man is in the chat. He says I'm in 208th place in the play action. Thanks for the help, y'all. Family Man, he watched what was it? Our Thursday show? No, Wednesday show. He said he was trying to watch the show in front of his children. He was offended by some of the things I said. I want to sincerely apologize, Family Man. I probably got out of line. I probably said things I shouldn't have. If your son is watching, I just want him to know this is safe space for children. This is a safe space for everybody. And also, I'd like to apologize in advance for anything I say the rest of the year on this show.
Where's my apology for babysitting you the entire time?
What
You're the reason we had to put the explicit tag on the podcast that week. Actually, there's no chance I was putting that on the podcast.
Honestly, I say this with complete sincerity. I don't remember a lot from that show. I remember building a head-to-head lineup against LaMarca for $100, and I still almost beat him. Just blacked out.
That's the only way I could get it back on the rails, because you guys were talking about nonsense for like 20 minutes. We're bouncing around on these 2 games. It was just like a complete disaster. It was like, do we end the stream, or do I like get them to like reel it in on some sort of like random competition? So we did a cage match. There was no P Ryan for someone to take number 1 overall.
Take it to the house.
But Pete was all in to beat LaMarca. Like that's the only time like I saw it in your eyes that you literally just like dialed in to like what you were actually doing.
Sobered up, right? Yeah. On that competition.
Yeah. Like LaMarca takes the Watson stack or whatever it was, and you're like, oh my God, he's got the Watson stack. He faded Fuller. I'm gonna play Fuller now. So like it's the only time you actually like anything clicked in your brain was that content.
Hey God, I just want to ask you, has the line movement staff kind of gone through the analytics of the Thursday night shows and maybe checked the numbers? I mean, do you think Frisco Josh Hermsmeyer is linking out to our Thursday thing unless I'm obliterated? I think not. Holka.
I mean, if we're gonna go like into the deep like air yards whopper analytics of YouTube, then yeah, that's one of the best midweek shows we've had, confirmed. Yeah, so I don't know if that's more basically the big competition, you being drunk. Maybe it's LaMarca talking about his OnlyFans. I don't know. Like it was there was a lot of different things on that show for sure. But yeah, we doubled up some of our normal numbers. Is that what you want me to say?
Leone, how did I'm trying to remember. I think I caught some of, because your drunk show with Dink was right after ours. I don't even remember how that went. Go ahead.
It went well. It was fun. We were drunk. We probably weren't as drunk as you. I mean, you had a long day, Pete. So we played a drinking game on the show. It was pretty good. I'm in 8th, one spot out of the cash in the dome though, and I'm just like losing my mind that if Tyreek Hill scores 40 instead of 60, I finish like 4th, and instead I'm not even going to cash.
So I mean, why are you sweating this? I mean, Leone, a min cash in the dome's only 10K.
Here we go, man. Leone gets sweating his own teams again. Peter and our day's been over for a while.
What is there to sweat
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Team? Sorry.
That's what I'm saying. Our
sorry,
day's been
I'm
over.
not sorry. I need this game to go to overtime, and I could get it. I could get the overtime suck out.
What is Leone rooting for? Dude, Deebo Samuel has 26 points. When did this happen?
Yeah, Deebo was such a play, man. We got him at 0.6%. Sklansky bucks.
The Peter Overzet injury return model is just little metal, a metal emoji. This is a new thing. Peter Overzet injury return model. Let's go.
Leone,
what do we need?
I like this
Cooper
team for the
Kupp
record.
has 6 points. So I need 8 more points to min cash.
What was your, I guess, thought process on Rudolph and Dalvin Cook on the same team? Because isn't like the thesis, Peter, of playing someone like Rudolph is that like if he sucks out a touchdown, you're feeling pretty good, but then that also probably takes a touchdown away from Cook, right? It was just a price thing and mini correlation. Is that what you were doing?
The thesis was 3 of the best values on the entire slate were on Minnesota, so I think you could easily play 2 of them.
Gotcha.
And like also the touchdown thing works. Like if Rudolph had scored instead of Justin Jefferson, I'd be cashing right now, right? Like, or if Dalvin had scored the touchdowns and not Justin Jefferson,
or
like,
Eckler gets in. You got stopped at the one twice. You said, right?
Yeah, but like as far as the Minnesota stuff, I kind of felt like Rudolph was so cheap, it was almost like a non-consideration. If anything, the consideration was like, do you play Dalvin and Jefferson together? And then I was like, well, I can play Rudolph in one of Dalvin or Jefferson, and if Rudolph scores, like hopefully I pick the right one of the other two.
What was Jefferson in here, ownership-wise?
I was going to say, check the team right ahead of Leone. Go Sixers go. Had the Cook, Jefferson, Rudolph, 46%. Brought it back with Anderson. He played Fitz and Parker, and then the Jets defense against them.
Yeah, I'm not pleased.
Oh, man. Peter, are you going to get mad if I talk about Null Fan's team for 15 seconds?
Dude, I'm so sick of hearing about this dude, Null Fan, man. I'm so sick of it. I almost cussed, and then I remembered Family Man is watching. So go ahead. Talk about Null Fan here.
Null, nice team, my man. Josh Allen to Davis.
How do you not stop him?
Eckler. He's got the Dalvin Cook, Rudolph stack like Leone. Sharp team, man. He went a little chalky at running back, went off the board with Eckler. Good stuff.
So
okay,
I know he really likes to play the condensed offenses.
Right.
So he's like really playing the minimize things you get right with this team. It's like literally Minnesota hits and and the Buffalo Bills game hits.
Hang on, I need to ask Joe something because I do have OA in the chat and he's telling me that he won't put a thumbs up on the video unless I cuss. Then Family Man's watching with his child. I just need a directive. You're kind of the editorial control here. Will you tell me, am I going more in the Family Man direction or am I going for the F-bombs for likes direction?
Yeah, I mean, an F-bomb for 1 like probably doesn't move the needle, but like everything we're doing is going to be under the explicit tag anyway, so I don't care. Especially this show. Are you kidding me? I'm not going to hold you back.
Maybe
Why would I hold you back, Pete? I tried to hold you back for a Wednesday afternoon show. We were trying to get some sort of slate breakdown on the channel. That's the only time I've ever tried to hold you back.
So maybe like F's in the chat for F-bombs, C in the chat for censored.
I mean, you put a 1 in the chat for, you know.
No, don't do this binary code crap.
It's easier to see it.
OA says this show turned into Disney. He says this show is Disney.
It's literally Peter's burner account in the chat right now.
Have we lost our street cred because I'm being censored? I mean, we have people writing in letters to line movement.
If this is censored, I don't know what censored is.
My child. F's in the chat. A lot of F's in the chat. They want the F-bomb.
Do you guys think we could get a Brady pick 6 here? Is that asking for too much?
I keep forgetting Leone's actually sweating stuff. I mean, it's just $10,000. Why don't you relax, Leone?
$10,000 is 2 more entries into the dome. That's the way you got to look at it, okay? That's 2 dome entries.
Is anyone watching the chat right now? So many F's in the chat. All right,
Family Man.
Hang on,
Family Man, you got to get your burners out, man, because the F-bombs are coming at this rate. I give the people what they fucking want.
We're gonna give Pete a mute button or a bleep button. We got one of these ones. Are you motherfuckers? Just give me a heads up, Pete.
Producer Joe showing off.
It's all good. We'll get you one of those, Pete.
Throw a pick.
I think it's in the budget. We'll get you a bleep button. That'd probably be one of the best things we ever.
Oh, Leonard Fournette catch. So and things that should not be tilted. FFPC playoffs, me and Dink, main event team. We have Mark Andrews and Irv Smith as our tight ends. So this morning, we need to pick up a tight end to play. We agree that Tyler Eifert is the best option. Smart, right? Tyler Eifert finds the end zone. Unfortunately, Drew picks up Tyler Croft instead of Tyler Eifert. And then Tyler Croft is a healthy and active while Tyler Eifert scores. And we're like probably going to lose by the difference that Tyler Eifert would have made.
Was he just in a rush? I'm confused. I don't understand how something like that happened.
I think Dink was still drunk from his Thursday night show.
I'm going to ask him.
Tell him that you just broadcasted it live on the Tilt Space. Millions of people now know about his absolutely catastrophic gaffe. What is his answer?
Let's see. I said, do people want to know what happened on the Tyler pickup? Millions of people now know. It has been broadcast.
Oh
Is Dink still at his parents' house in Gainesville?
His response was, I can't. Just the words, I can't. Like a nonsensical, just like, I can't even, I guess. I'll ask him if he can elaborate. He is in Florida, though. He's been playing some college football, DFS, living the dream.
Fending off the iguanas? Is that what it was? I forget what the bit was.
Yeah, the iguanas. Yeah. It was the iguanas. I asked him if he can elaborate. He says, I searched Tyler for tight end. Okay, go. Oh my God.
Holka, one thing I want to circle back to is
Whatever.
you saying that you tossed one of the lineups we made into the double spy.
Mhm.
Now to track it, and I do something similar, but I toss it into like an $8 3-Mac. So how rich are you to casually toss one of these into the double spy, and not just a single spy, not just the $100, but the double spy, Joe? I mean, explain yourself.
I don't know, man. I have a lot of confidence in what we're doing here, right? So I don't know. I throw them all usually in like the $9, and then I saw that was going to overlay a little bit, and I just needed to be done with that and move on to some FanDuel 1 p.m. teams. So that's pretty much the story.
Are you still grinding the 1
Small
p.m.
slates?
only slates? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't play any of the 4 p.m. slate because there was only 3 games this week. But I had, thankfully, that's like what saved my entire week. Like, I'm not going to even be in the negative this week somehow just because I didn't have to worry about Tyreek Hill because I just had all the Henry on FanDuel, which was nice. But I'm sure it's such a blessing in disguise that I didn't play the main slate because as much on the main slate because I would have been buried by Tyreek as well. So
You almost call it the man slate.
the man slate. Yeah.
That's
the contests
what
are
you've been
nice.
mentioning
The contests
too.
are like exactly the size that we want to play, and some of them are structured better than anything on DraftKings. It's the only way I play it. The reason I play it.
The early only or the FanDuel?
The early,
I don't
FanDuel
know what
early only. Solid.
Oh, FanDuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Early only. I mean, we would have cleaned up on it. If we played early only, we would have cleaned up because the ownerships probably still would have been right for us on the running backs we played, like Derrick Henry and Eckler.
When you guys address Joe online from now on, I want you to call him the FanDuel early only king. Okay? Joe Holka, the FanDuel early only king. We all are trying to carve out a niche here. A niche and a niche. And Joe Holka is the FanDuel early only king.
I'll wear that.
Evans TD. The Bucks wide receiver I don't play.
We never like playing that guy. And
What are you doing? Sorry. Rams are jumping off sides on a long field goal attempt. We fucking need overtime.
Take it back. I went on shows a couple weeks ago. I mocked everyone that said Antonio Brown was going to be a league winner. Then I took the L on it. I said he's getting too many targets. He might be a league winner. I want to untake that L. I'm untaking the L. Antonio Brown isn't a league winner. Suck it.
The funny thing about Mike Evans right now is he has 2 touchdowns, but he only has 3 catches for 50 yards.
Yeah. Well, guess what, Joe? Touchdowns are worth 6 fantasy points each.
Is that true? 6 fantasy points? That sounds
And you
like
know
a big
what?
deal.
You would think on the FanDuel only, you'd know those were worth. What are you crying about now, Leone?
Gold made the field goal after the offside, so I'm dead now in the dome, locked into 8th place, barring a Brady pick 6.
Uh-oh. Family man's doing earmuffs. I'm sorry for your
I'm
number.
so upset. Cooper Kupp, are you serious with this performance? God, it
No
makes
fan
me
does not like
sick.
you, Pete.
It makes me sick that if Tyreek Hill scores 40 points instead of 60, I finish in 3rd place
Uh-oh, hang on. I want to
or
continue my
4th
beef
place.
with Null Fan. At Joe Holka, it's time to fire this ham and egger Overzet and replace him with a real player. His repeated attacks are give a dear friend a thumbs down. I would love to see Null fans on this show replaced with me. I will sit out next week to watch Null fans host this show. I would actually get my popcorn ready, Joe. You have my permission to bench me for 1 week for Null fan hosting the tilt space. The people want it, Joe. Let's see his charisma on display, Joe Holka.
I mean, I don't
You're
care.
quiet. Null fan.
It's
hit
your
me
guys'
up.
beef. I'm not in the middle of that.
If people, one's in the chat, if you want Null fan, I will give him my spot next week. He wants a real player on here.
He just knows what to get you going, and it's working. So I'm a fan of that.
Oh my goodness. What a tough week.
Oh,
I feel like this is one of the more tilting weeks because it was a good week for us and it was just the wrong one thing. You know? Like there's been other weeks where there's been outlier performances like this, but we were kind of dead anyways. That was not this week.
No, you can't survive the one player on the slate that goes one crazy. Literally, it's over.
Yeah. But I'm just saying it kind of sucks that it happened like on this
On a week where we got a
'cause
lot right and did some things really well. Yeah.
Yeah, and just gonna get totally cleaned out. Unless because I didn't play FanDuel early only.
Dude. The
You gotta
only
kiss
reason
the
that I'm
ring.
not tilting the Tyreek thing that hard is because it didn't affect me as much as it probably should have. So mentally, I feel like I have like I did some good things. The Derrick Henry thing worked out. Ran a little bit bad with Austin Eckler, but I didn't get buried by the 60-point performance. So those teams all cashed anyway.
Brady's gonna throw a pick 6. I just know it.
Oh, he's due for one. He wants to throw it so bad.
How great would that be? Oh my god, throw the pick 6, Tom. What's crazy is this game's 27-24. Doesn't feel like it.
That
but it
is honestly crazy.
Some big defense performances this week, huh? Falcons 28. I didn't realize they got all the way to 28. Panthers 19. Like some cheap defenses got there. So you didn't even need the Saints. The Saints are 3,800 super chalk, only sitting at 14 right now.
Yeah, I kind of went through a bad results over process there when I was tilting us just not going all in on the Saints. But if you watch the Broncos game, it was just so I thought, sometimes you see these games and like they're able to find some success like via numbers just rushing the entire time, but they had no success doing that. They threw the ball more than I expected early, and Hinton just had no chance out there. Some people named Davis Maddox started Hinton at wide receiver in their FFPC playoffs. So
Wait,
at least
wait. At what position?
at wide receiver.
Okay, that's fine.
That's
Well, actually, I
that's
want to know
close
who we
enough
sat
to
him
me.
for. I want to know who we sat him for.
I asked and he said he wasn't legally obligated to tell me. So it was probably someone bad.
I hope it was like Jarvis Landry.
Oh my god. Do you think that we missed the boat on like playing Taysom Hill naked in order to get in mini stacks where we don't like the quarterback as much? I know we've like both kind of talked about there. All three of us have probably talked about that a little bit this week. I guess like it never feels great. And now he's going to be more expensive, so we probably missed the boat on that, right? Just like a stack and we like maybe just like the Kirk Cousins stack where we like pieces of Minnesota. We don't necessarily want to play Kirk Cousins, so we play the running quarterback. I don't know. I feel like we missed it now. It's gonna be so.
Yeah,
expensive.
we missed the boat.
Yeah,
we definitely missed the boat.
That's rough. I guess think about that going forward though.
Hang on.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I was like looking for a naked quarterback to play, but I wanted it to be cheaper this week.
Mm-hmm.
So last week I thought he was gonna be too chalky to make it work. This week, I wanted him in the 5Ks, not the 6Ks. So I didn't pull the trigger either time, but I think it's a pretty logical strategy. Like if you were doing it this week, it was probably over like Mahomes or something, which would have not ended up working out. Or actually, maybe it would have. I mean, he does like is Taysom somewhat close to Mahomes, as crazy as Mahomes' game is.
I don't know. What did Taysom end up with?
Like Mahomes is at 34, which actually isn't insane. Like if you had played Taysom, Tyreek, Kelsey, and a bring back, like that would have been one way to do it and get cheaper. I
That
bet you,
doesn't that
Robbie.
seem like a little bit of a narrow needle to thread there, where it's
Well, yeah, probably.
like if you get this Hill explosion and you get the Kelsey explosion, I mean, how many times do you need like it just that just seems tough to
I mean,
nail
the idea is you're saving $2,000. I'm
in
just
this
the
economy.
the example. We talked about this, Peter. That Eric Beimford did this for in his Roto Grinders series last week, where he did it with a Pittsburgh stack, which probably makes a little bit more sense. No rushing equity from the quarterback, but condensed offense, and you were saving like $2,000. Again, I guess that's what the issue was. The price just got higher on Taysom. I'm just trying to think of who you would have done it with this week,
Yeah.
because like it's hard for me to say to do it over a quarterback that's the same price or more expensive.
To me, the spot to have done it with, and we talked about this earlier, Joe, would have been in that Carolina Minnesota game where
Right.
both Bridgewater and Cousins didn't
Mhm.
seem super appealing, but we liked a lot of the other pieces. Where if you wanted to play, say, like Dalvin and Justin Jefferson, but then do it with Taysom Hill at quarterback, obviously that's a chalky combination, but
Yeah, I guess it would have been fine. It's hard for me to do that when the quarterback's like the same price though. Like you're not even saving money on the quarterback.
That's the thing. It's the price specific aspect of it. Like I almost would have preferred like even like Ryan Fitzpatrick naked versus Taysom Hill because he was significantly cheaper in a decent game environment. But I don't know. Quarterback wasn't that big of a deal this week outside of Mahomes. It's like pretty flat. Like most of these guys scored anywhere from 15 to 20.
Yeah.
so this San Francisco game went to OT, huh?
Yeah, people are asking if
Fuck
that's good for you,
you.
Pete or Leone.
It didn't go to OT.
Should we do a
It
Pete
didn't?
versus Noel fan head to head next week?
Are you guys trolling me right now? I needed the game to go to OT. It did
Oh.
not go to OT.
All right, sorry.
Jalen Ramsey was offsides on a field goal attempt, and then they made the field goal with no time left.
Yikes.
What is this tweet I just got? Debo Samuel putting up 11 for 134 against matchup king Jalen Ramsey is why you listen to touts like Peter Overzet, in my opinion. Couldn't agree more. Smash the retweet button. Oh my God.
God, the Brady pick suck out is going to be so golden.
I'm so glad week 12 is over. What a nightmare. The double content week, just get absolutely buried by one player. So brutal.
I can't believe I got the Debo game and it didn't matter.
We got what did Cup end up with? Because that was what we were correlating Debo
6.
with.
Yeah, Cup
4%
was 2 for 41. But that's like another one of kind of like the Landry thing I was saying. I mean, I think the Debo Cup correlation makes sense, but like, did we have to correlate it? Like the thesis behind Debo isn't necessarily that the Rams have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe that's forcing that. You think it's like still a field size thing?
I don't know. I'm probably just overthinking the result. Because I liked Cup a lot because he projected well anyways, and he projected at low ownership anyway. So I thought he was a good play. So to correlate, it just makes sense. So it was probably the right thing. I'm just thinking like
and the thing is like in that same price range, the alternative was Justin Jefferson, and we didn't want to eat that chalk.
Yeah. Oh, it just sucks to be the last guy out on a 60-point Tyreek Hill outing. Tilt space. This is why I'm here.
Well, I'd love to feel bad for you if you didn't go first or last like 5 weeks in a row with a lot of firsts in that same contest. So
yeah, it's just one of those things where you just there's gonna be weeks where you just get smashed the way I'm playing. So the weeks that it kind of breaks right for you, it's hard to not capitalize, I guess.
Here's a good actual process question we can actually answer. Why Cup over Woods? I know for me, I was looking at his target projection and his ceiling projection, and I liked it slightly better than Cup, even though he was slightly more expensive. Do you guys have any other reasons on why you preferred Cup over Woods?
Neither were going to be
really on this
owned.
game, so I'll let Leone.
Yeah, neither were going to be owned, and I think Cup's just a better PPR fantasy or just regular for like Cup's the better fantasy play, right? Like, wouldn't you agree like that he's the better play?
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
straight
I
up.
do. Yeah,
Yeah. So I don't really have a lot to it. His target share has been higher basically all season. Uh, he's more of a red zone threat.
And Andre in the chat says Tyreek another catch.
That game is still going on.
2 minutes.
Oh my God. Did they get a first down? Please don't tell me they got a first down.
Yep, Tyreek 60 bomb.
What are you rooting for, Leone? Just this game.
I need the Brady pick 6, buddy. Now they're going to run out the clock.
Oh, yeah, it's over.
You know what's nuts, too? This game ends up 27-24.
That is honestly nuts.
like here we are tilting that the KC Tampa Bay game went off. It's 27-24.
There was a 60 bomb in a game that finished 27-24. Like, that is wild.
Dude, this Bucks team is so weird. They're really weird.
I mean,
they're fraudulent, right? I mean,
it's just a mix of Brady's kind of toast but they still have enough really good pieces, and it's just like this battle of what wins out each week. And I don't know if I'd say they're totally fraudulent because I think their defense is pretty good, but I know they had a couple injuries, at least one on the D line that was really brutal. I forgot who it was. They lost for the season in the Bears game. I know they're probably a good buy low team right now. I think they're going to be pretty interesting come playoff time. I do worry that Brady just can't do it in a spot where everyone knows he has to throw against a good defense.
Yeah.
Pete, do you think it was bad? I remember our conversation about Derrick Henry versus Nick Chubb, and we were basically just like trying to decide if we wanted to play one of those guys, but I don't think there was any moment where we even considered playing two of those guys with some of these other guys on the slate. So like, I guess it doesn't have to be just either or with some of those guys at times, especially if we weren't super crazy about some of the running backs in that price range at similar ownership levels. So I don't know. We liked Nick Chubb. We talked about him a good amount. I ended up with like almost 0 because I played Derrick Henry in all of those spots, which was fine. But I didn't have any teams that had both, I guess. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I know Leone was more on Chubb than I was. I was breaking ties in favor of Kareem Hunt this morning when I saw their ownership was going to be the same. Obviously, the Chubb side was the right side. But as far as our player pool, I mean, we were mainly building for wide receiver lineups this week. And so if you have Henry in there, and then we also loved Eckler, and we loved Cook, and we liked Hines a lot. So it was just hard to land on all of those combinations we liked in 4 lineups. I'm sure if we built 10 lineups, maybe we land on a Henry Chubb, but we only had 4 lineups.
Fair. The one thing I'm thinking through a little bit more was I really got hung up on playing at least one Minnesota guy. And in a way, it worked out, right? Rudolph hits value. Justin Jefferson hits value. Like those guys both beat their salary expectations by a decent bit. But then like Cook falls. And even though Jefferson and Rudolph got there, like if you had played 0 Viking teams, you would have been fine. Like you weren't toast by any stretch of the imagination. And sometimes you got to play it as just like things could turn out okay and you could still survive it, right? And I wonder if I overthought needing a Minnesota player. And that is really what prevented me from playing any of those lineups that you mentioned, Joe, because even if it was me playing Jefferson instead of Dalvin, who would have been fine because he outscored Chubb or was like right with Chubb. But even if it was that, was just eating a spot that wasn't a part of my stack, that made it difficult. So I don't know.
I think I've done a pretty good job, and if you guys just want to rip me, that's fine. But like I used to just like only play these like chalk riding backs only for the most part, but I've done a better job at least finding like these type of Henry plays or these Chubb plays that are going to be much lower owned that like maybe don't have the pass catching ability, but like I guess maybe still a leak for me is like I almost refuse to play both of those guys in the same lineup. It's almost like I'd prefer to have a couple of the ones I feel really strongly about, and then like a Miles Sanders or like a Derrick Henry or a Nick Chubb at lower ownership as like one of those spots. But it's all slate specific, but baby steps, man. I'm trying. I'm progressing.
But I feel like on a slate like this, we had tons of good options. I mean, we could play Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler in the same lineup at low ownership, and both were just absolute smash plays.
I guess that's true. We had some team, or I mean, at least we had a few teams that we built throughout the morning that had Eckler and Henry. So maybe I'm being too hard on myself there.
Yeah. I'll also say in the stuff we played too, like Dalvin at 36%, wasn't bad. Like I would have been okay with that ownership ahead of time.
He's 80 in the dome, right?
He was 80 in the dome. Yeah.
Right. In last week in our stuff, Dalvin was closer to what? 65, 70%?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
And I was saying the same thing. I at 30, 35%, I didn't balk at that whatsoever. I thought that was completely fine. And again, I mean, he left the game for a while. Justin Jefferson got a couple of the TDs. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have regrets about the Dalvin Cook play.
I have regrets that we didn't win this slate. That's what I have regrets.
Dude, just trust the process, man. Trust
this
it.
This was like everything we wanted in a slate except for Tyreek Hill.
It is crazy because so many things, like we said, to continue to beat the dead horse. Faded the passing game with the Bills and the Chargers. Went heavy on Austin Eckler. Went heavy on Derrick Henry. We had Tannehill. We had AJ Brown. We had Hines. Like even Parker, as our fits to Parker.
Yeah.
Like so many things. Like you look at this lineup, and I will say we held on for the min cash 1250. So we're not going home with nothing today. But again, to borrow a cliche, pucks on net, shots on goal. Like this is another one of those where I feel really good. This was the first lineup. If you guys want to know how the sausage gets made, we built 4 lineups this morning at like 10 p.m. Eastern. This was the first lineup we made, and we loved it. We're like, this fits perfectly. We like it. Has all these plays, and that was the case. And Joe is giving me the wrap up signal. He's giving it to me.
Pete, I go full screen to you to tell you when we can guess. I mean, we don't need to beat a dead horse here. I think we actually played well.
I like beating a dead horse.
Okay, cool. I'll just go to two-way and go grab a beer.
No, I'm ready to.
You want me to wrap this up?
Oh, I don't care. I was just saying that I think we've covered most of the stuff that at least I have to say, unless you guys have much more.
I mean, I just want to continue to beat a dead horse and say, like, even Mahomes, Kelsey were like completely survivable. Freaking Tyreek. That's it.
All right, guys. Joe Holka needs to go and make a tortellini with his girlfriend or something. Thank you. Go full screen to me, Joe. I'm about to land the plane. I'm going to land the plane. I'm going to alienate Family Man. I'm going to alienate Noel Fan in the process, but give me the full screen.
You got it, my friend.
I got it. Ladies and gentlemen, I forgot. It is my bad as a host. You need to smash the subscribe button. You need to smash the like fan. Even you, Noel Fan. Even you, Family Man. You need to do it for the sake of everyone else. We even have the link to iTunes if you guys want to listen back to this in audio form. I think this is a show that rewards repeat listening. I actually recommend listening back to it in audio form. Guys, we didn't win this week, but that doesn't matter. We just trust the process. This was a weird slate. The slate got flipped on its head again and again and again. Thank you guys, as always, for hanging out with us. I can't believe it's already week 12. We have only so many slates left back in us. Joe Holka wants me to wrap this up so badly. So badly. So, for Joe Holka, for Michael Leone, I'm Peter Overzet. This has been The Tilt Space. We'll see you guys next time.